Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day so far, and welcome to today's video, which is going to be another episode of Makeup Dilemmas, where you guys send me your makeup problems or challenges or questions, and I try my best to help you or answer the questions as best that I can. As always, when I'm planning these videos, I put the question up on my Instagram stories for you guys to drop your questions into, and this was by far the most questions I've ever had for one of these videos, so I definitely don't have time to answer every single one of them because there were a lot. So I'm going to pick like the most asked, the most popular, the ones that I think will be the most helpful to as many people as possible, and just get through as many as we can without making the video 4 hours long. First up, my friends call me Margot asked, how can I avoid getting lipstick on my teeth? So I have a really good tip for this. I forget where I learned this from. I can't remember. It was probably another creator here on YouTube. I can't remember who it was, but this has become like a staple move for me when doing lipstick, especially when wearing like a bright that is more likely to get on my teeth, as well as especially like a shinier lipstick is like even more likely to sort of transfer, I find. So what I do is I apply the lipstick and then I take my pointy finger, my poker, if you will, index finger, also a good option, and I do this. And you see how it basically gets all of the lipstick that's kind of on the inside of your mouth off, and therefore the bits of your lips that touch your teeth have been wiped clean without messing up your lips. It's genius. It takes 2 seconds and it works. I promise you. I do it literally every time I apply lipstick these days. It's just a quick and you're good. So Lovely Bron asked, I'm always confused, is it bronzer or contour first? So bronzer first, then contour, or contour first, then bronzer. Now, honestly, I feel like you can do whatever you like. If I'm doing cream contour is one of the only cream varieties that I actually really like and get along with. The Charlotte Tilbury Cream Contour Wand is a favourite of mine. If I'm using that, obviously I do that first before any other product. But otherwise, I always go bronzer first, and it's just because I find it so much easier. If I've applied my bronzer, to then go in with like my contour brush and my contour powder just at the bottom of where my bronzer is, I find it makes it way more natural because you're blending into something, whereas I feel like if I'm doing contour straight onto just base or just onto foundation, it's then you've got to be really careful with where you put it, really precise, and you haven't got anything to blend into. So for me, I personally prefer to apply my bronzer as I normally would and then blend my contour into the bronzer. I just feel like it helps me because I'm a dummy and I struggle especially with like precise, careful application of things. So that really helps me, just having that bronzer to blend into placement and all of that stuff. So that's what I do. I mean, you can do whatever you like, whatever tickles your pickle. So Liz asked what to use to cover vertical lip lines, please. I mean, as far as makeup's concerned, you can't really like conceal lines. They're not sort of, you know, a discoloration. They're actual little, you know, creases or lines in the skin. So you can, you know, apply concealer over the top of them, but it's not going to make them invisible most of the time. I prefer to use like a smoothing primer because that will like fill and things like with silicone in, smooth out lines as much as possible. Again, it's something that I think as we get older, lines are visible. They're going to be there, especially when applying makeup on top. Most makeup, most of the time on most lines is actually going to make them more pronounced because they're being filled with product essentially. So I just think there's really not a lot we can do. When we can't hide lines, we can't hide aging. Why would we want to? It is such a blessing to grow older. So honestly, I don't think you need to hide them. I don't think you should be trying to hide them. You can do things like using smoothing primers and smoothing powders to make your lines interfere less with makeup and be more flattering on lines, but it's not going to conceal them necessarily or make them invisible. I think really the only thing that's going to do that is Botox or filler. So Martina asked, what eye look would I go for to match with red lipstick? For me, when it comes to like a bright red lipstick, I love to go for like a completely neutral eye. I just think that's such a classic, beautiful look. Very, very simple. I do kind of live like, you know how probably your mum told you, you know, it's boobs or legs and never both. But obviously both is fine, you can do whatever you like. But I kind of had the same concept when it comes to makeup. Either eyes or lips, but not both. That's kind of how I go with my makeup. I don't typically do a very heavy or a very colourful eye and a very colourful bright lip at the same time. If I've got a really bright, colourful red lipstick, I love to go just a really neutral, natural eye look. Maybe something like the Natasha Denona Glam palette, or I see that you said something from the Pat McGrath Motherships. So I just do a really soft bronze brown shimmer eye. That would be like my typical go-to preference. Aesthetically Turquoise, great name, asked how to say no to an amazing sale or deal. Here's the thing. I have this friend when I was growing up, right? And we used to go, we were both, she was another swimmer. And whenever we were away on camps or competition and we would go to the supermarket, she was an absolute nightmare for having to buy anything that was on sale, regardless of if it was something we wanted was on our list whatsoever. If there was something buy one get one free, she was constantly on at me, Charlotte, let's go halves. We'll buy 2 of these and we'll go halves because it's buy one get one free. I was like, that's not cheaper if I wasn't going to buy it in the first place. That's what we have to remember. If you didn't want something at full price, what do you want it for now? Because it's whatever it is, 10, 20 or 30% off, probably max when it comes to makeup. Why do you suddenly want it because it has a different price? If you didn't really want something at full price and you weren't actively saving it or waiting for a sale for it to be reduced, why do you want it now because it's a little bit cheaper? Because guess what? If you weren't going to buy it, it isn't cheaper at any sale price. It's more than you were going to spend on it initially, which was 0 because you didn't want it. That's what you have to remember. It's not cheaper if you weren't actually going to buy it and you didn't want it in the first place, even at a reduced price. Mahira asked, do you put corrector on discoloured eyelids, then concealer? It still looks greyish. So I don't use a colour corrector on my lids prior to eyeshadow. I don't have a lot of discoloration in that area, to be honest. My eyelids are slightly red, but nothing major and nothing that isn't completely covered with concealer prior to me going in with eyeshadow. If you have discoloration on your lids, 100% you could try a small amount of colour corrector, depending on the colour of your discoloration. If they are grey, then I think it's a peach, whatever the opposite of the colour wheel is, can't quite remember. And then go in with a concealer. Wherever you need to colour correct, then absolutely give that a try. I would go in colour corrector first, then concealer. So Sophie says, how to get my foundation to not separate regardless of using setting powder. So here's the thing, separation on foundation could be one of a number of things. You didn't say what kind of skin type you have or the products that you're using. I had another question, actually a similar question from Nikki B, saying her foundation cracks no matter how much I moisturise and prime, and she said she had dry skin. So a few things with both of these options. When foundation is like separating or like not adhering or not staying in place throughout the day, there's a few things, without knowing all of the products that you're using and everything, that you could try. So the first thing is skin prep. What products are you using before base? So moisturizers, serums, things like that. What primer are you using? SPF, foundation, what are you using in all of those categories? Because it may be that they aren't playing nicely together, or you're not leaving enough time between serum and moisturizer, or moisturizer and primer, or primer and foundation, and 2 of those products may be like fighting with each other, and that could cause separation, particularly in foundation. If, for example, you're using a very oily foundation and a watery primer, or vice versa, those aren't going to mix well and they will separate. It could just be that your foundation is not a good one that works very well for your skin type, so you may want to try a different one there. Same thing with your primer, but ensuring you're leaving enough time between steps is really key, and also ensuring that the ingredients in all those products play nicely together. Lipsticks Me asked, if I could only get one, would I choose Dior's Rose Bobby or Mimirose? So this is of the Dior Addict lipsticks. So they are quite different. I'm not sure I could or would choose between them. They are two of my absolute favorite shades, but they are completely different. So which one you should choose really is completely up to you, your preference, your skin tone. I simply cannot make that decision for you. So this is Mimirose, a very, very light sort of peachy pink, and this is Rose Bobby, a much deeper, darker coral pink or salmon pink almost. Essentially, if you have a fair to light skin tone, Mimirose is just the most gorgeous, unique, stunning, pretty soft shade. If you have more of like a medium or deeper skin tone, it's probably going to be too light for you to get the best out of the shade, in which case I would go for Rose Bobby. I probably, if I just looked at these two in swatches or on someone with fair skin, I think I like Mimirose better, but on me and my skin tone, Rose Bobby is definitely the better choice because this one is just too light for me most of the time. As much as I just think it's stunning, I think this one just is better for me on my skin tone. So Kylie asked about mascara that does not run or transfer during the day. I end up with mascara on my face. We kind of talked about this quite a lot in the last episode, so I'll just briefly reiterate my answer from that video, which is mascara transferring and running. Most of the time, some mascaras are just rubbish. So there's that. But most of the time it's actually because you have oily lids. I don't have oily lids, so there's literally only one mascara really that has ever transferred heavily on me, and that was the Too Faced Better Than Sex. Like it's really never happened again since then because I just don't have oily lids. But what's happening is that your oily lids are breaking down the mascara, and it's basically keep staying wet for that reason, and that's what's happening. So apparently that is actually the issue with mascara that runs or transfers. Or if you have that issue a lot, it's actually oily lids. So the best thing to do is to use a primer, an eyeshadow primer, especially one that is good for oily skin, and set with powder, set upper and under the eyes with powder, and that's going to be your best bet. But it is probably just going to be one of those issues. If you have extremely oily lids, it's going to be something that is probably a bit of a tricky thing for you, but it's a skin type thing as opposed to it being like, if every mascara is doing it on you, then it's oily lids and not the mascara. Waterproof mascara is again another good option apparently for people with oily lids. That's going to be less transfer, less messy. Ida asks, foundation or tinted moisture on a daily basis? I mean, again, do whatever you like, whatever your preference. That's totally down to personal preference. For me, I'm a foundation girl. I don't use tinted moisturizers that often, to be honest. I just prefer a medium coverage, natural, glowy foundation. That's my jam for every day. I like both. I do use the odd tinted moisturizer, but for me, my preference is foundation all the way. Exo Coco says, why do liquidy lip paints turn fuchsia on me? I'm not sure. I mean, that's got to be something to do with your natural lip colour or your natural lip chemistry. Obviously, lipsticks all look different on everybody depending on your skin tone, depending on your natural pigment in your lips. You have very pigmented lips or not, and the colour of your lips, lipsticks are going to look different. So it's probably just down to the natural colour of your lips. Embrace it. Who doesn't want a gorgeous fuchsia pair of lippies? I know I do. So I had a few questions about eyeliners. I don't know if you're asking about liquid liners or pencil liners, but some of my favourite favourite liquid liner is still the KVD Beauty liquid liner. That does not smudge or budge for me at all throughout the day. But as far as pencil liners, I used to be obsessed with the Milk ones, but apparently they've been discontinued, which is a disaster. But I love Charlotte Tilbury's eyeliners. They are very, very creamy, but very beautiful. And I actually really still rate MAC's eye pencils. They still have one of the best colour ranges in the business, and still a really nice, really good liner. They're not as creamy and like smooth as like the Charlotte Tilbury ones or Natasha Denona's, but for that reason, although you might want to warm them up a little on the back of your hand, but they are less inclined to like smudge or bleed because they aren't as creamy of a formula as some of the others. So again, MAC might be worth a try. So JN Jornich, what do you do when makeup becomes uninspiring? Honestly, Uninspiring is tricky because I'm not a big creative person. Like, you know, I'm not reinventing the wheel over here. I just like playing with products and trying new products and doing pretty much like my comfort zone, my kind of makeup, my style of makeup. I never really go too far out of the lines as far as what I enjoy and what I like and what I prefer my makeup to look like. So I guess most of the time my own makeup is not that exciting and not that inspiring, but I just really enjoy it. For me, it doesn't need to necessarily inspire me. It's just about a bit of self-care and just enjoying the process and enjoying talking to you guys about products. I think some of the time, you know, new releases these days can feel very samey and very, you know, oh, we've seen it all before and there's nothing really exciting anymore. And that's okay, you know, take a break. We don't need to buy all the new makeup, all the new releases. That's the time to kind of go back to our drawers and find things we haven't played with for a while and just enjoy our collections. As far as content creation and making, you know, videos when there's nothing really exciting or inspiring as far as what's coming out, that's when I kind of go back to like doing a no buy video or a you don't need that video or one of these videos where, you know, it's not necessarily all about new products. It's about actually improving our makeup or learning something new or trying something different. So yeah, I think we don't always have to be super excited and inspired by new products all the time. Sometimes it's just nice to kind of take a break or even take a few weeks off of wearing makeup. Like I do that a lot, particularly in like summer holidays when I don't have that much time. My kids here every day and I just take a bit of a break from it. Maybe focus on something like skincare, get into fragrance, try something new and come back to it when you feel more excited to do that. So Dupre Sophie asks, which brushes do I recommend for bronzer, blush and highlight? So my favorite bronzer brush is the Niji Pro from Sonia G. I just love the shape and size of this. It's obviously gorgeous, beautiful brush, but for me, the shape and size of my face, this is just absolutely perfect. It gives me a sculpted bronze, which is what I like, a sort of carved out cheekbone. Keeps the bronzer, the product, high up on my cheeks away from the center of my face, which is an issue for me. A very clever little brush, picks up the perfect amount of product. That is a 100% my favorite bronzer brush. My favorite blush brush, also Sonia G. All of these are going to be Sonia G. I'll just, spoiler alert, straight away. They are my favorite brushes for the face. This is the detail brush from the Lotus collection and it is by far my favorite blush brush. It's so tiny and fluffy, but I like my blush high up on my cheeks. I like a diffuse, soft application of blush that I can build up as much as I want without having to blend it all over like my whole cheek, because I've got this tiny little angled number that keeps it light, fluffy, but I can build and keep it where I want to keep it while blending it out. Absolutely my favorite blush brush. And for highlight, it's the Sonia G Fan Pro. This is just the perfect size and shape again for how I like to do my highlight. It's kind of dense enough that it picks up enough product and it blends and buffs it into the skin till it really, really is so blended and seamless. But it is also light and fluffy enough that it doesn't pick up too much or lay down too much and leave you with a lot of work to do. So yeah, when I like a really seamless, blended, melted into the skin, natural, glowy highlight, even using something really metallic and glowy over the top, this is going to give me the application that I like for my highlight. So these are my 3 blush, bronzer and highlight heroes. So Self-Claire5 says, I cannot get foundation or powder to stay on my nose. It looks awful in an hour. Claire, it sounds like you may be a member of the Oily Schnoz Club, of which I too am a member. A founding member. So I do get a bit of an oily nose at times, especially in the summer. Not so much, like there's really nowhere else where I get oily or dry, but my nose can definitely get a bit oily. And what I like to use is this MAC Prep and Prime Skin Refined Zone treatment. So you use a tiny amount of this and you sort of massage it into basically the sides of your nose, like here where your oil, where the sebum is most pronounced, where it's all up in your face. So I apply this after primer. So I'll apply my primer, my Tom Ford or my Tatcha on the perimeter of my face, and a tiny amount of this, like not even a pea okay, like half a pea's worth, down the sides of my nose and then on the tip as well, all the way the oil production is crazy. And you just leave it for a few minutes, go about your day, do your eyes, whatever, come back with foundation, apply it as you normally would. And then I would recommend either baking your nose or just really heavily setting your nose, and that does the trick for me. That's, if anyone else has any other tricks, I know there's a trick with like MAC paint pots. I haven't tried that. I get on perfectly well with this. I think it's a really little miracle product, but yeah, definitely give that a try. Make sure you're leaving enough time between primers and foundation, but this does the trick for me and my oily schnoz. I'd ask, do you feel more confident when you use makeup? No, not really. I really only wear makeup like 2 or 3 times a week. I love a good solid few days off without makeup. I am more than happy to go wherever without makeup. Days out with the kids, on the school run, to work, wherever. I do all of those things with or without makeup, and it really makes no difference to how confident I do or don't feel. I am very, very used to being makeup free. You know, my whole younger life I was a swimmer, so I was in a swimming pool with no makeup on, wet hair, in a tracksuit, like for the first 20 years of my life, on camera, on the TV. So, you know, interviews after races in that bedraggled state. So I can't say the thought of being makeup free but tidy is really one that is alarming to me, because like I said, I spent like your most, I guess, self-conscious years as a teenager and a young 20s woman to, you know, be constantly wet, bedraggled, red in the face and makeup free with a disgusting logoed tracksuit on, was how I spent literally the first half of my life. So yeah, that was something I was very, very used to. Also then, working in sport, I'm surrounded by people still in that phase of their life. All of the athletes I work with are constantly in training and makeup free. So that is like an environment that I am always in and around. And yes, I have learned and come to love makeup on certain days when I feel like doing it and playing with it, and I really enjoy the process of applying makeup, but it's certainly not something I need to do a full face of makeup to feel confident or to leave the house. Like, that's definitely nothing that I've ever felt. And I think it's really sad to think that we couldn't go anywhere without makeup on and feel like exposed. I think that's like a real shame that we should feel, that anyone should feel like they have to do a full face of makeup to go on the school run or to go to work. And it's fine if you want to, do you, but I just hate the thought that anyone would feel like they had to, because, you know, you're afraid to show your natural beauty. Because honestly, not one person has ever noticed the difference or said a single word to me about whether I have makeup on or not. Like, no one notices. And it's like, obviously you can tell I've got lipstick on today, that's not a secret, but I just think people don't care as much as you might think that they do. So Mood Eve says that with skincare layers, SPF, etc., too many layers and primers don't work for me. So ultimately, you do as many layers as you want or don't want. I think my skincare routine is something like 7 steps. So I do in the evenings, double cleanse, that's 2, toner, serum, retinol most of the time, moisturizer, eye cream, that's 7. In the morning, I don't have retinol, but I do have SPF. So usually, I guess typically it's 7 or 8 steps, my skincare routine. Do I feel like I have to and need to do every one of those steps? Not necessarily. On holiday, I did literally moisturizer. So yeah, I think it's really up to you. For lots of people, skincare is like self-care. It's therapeutic, and some people will enjoy every moment of taking care of themselves and taking care of their skin and really pampering themselves. And it's a whole therapy session. Other people want to splash some water on their face and go. And you know, who's to say which is right? Do whatever you like. If it's causing issues with your makeup or whatever, then typically the issue is not taking enough time between each one of those steps so that each product can fully absorb into the skin before you go in with the next one. Otherwise, you're just mixing them all together. And it's the same thing, you know, with applying foundation on top of moisturizer that hasn't had time to absorb, or SPF especially, can cause all manner of problems. So do as many steps as you do or don't want to do. Take as much time as you can in between each one of those steps to allow each product to kind of do its job and have its time to soak in before going in with the next one. So Kaz asks for the best base for mature skin that has good coverage but looks natural and radiant. It's obviously this one. This is my favourite foundation, has been for years now, the Tom Ford Shade and Illuminate Soft Radiance Foundation. It's gorgeous, glorious, natural, beautiful, luminous skin, very, very flattering on lines and texture, wears incredibly. It's angel skin, Victoria's Secret model skin in a stunning bottle. So what more can you say? A couple of questions about Pat McGrath eyeshadows and fallout. Yes, Pat McGrath's shimmery shadows, her special shadows, do have a lot of fallout. There's not a massive easy trick to stop you getting any fallout. I think that's something you just have to accept in exchange for the nature of those shadows being very, very sparkly and reflective and beautiful. They are looser, you know, glittery shadows that will have fallout. So there's a few things that you can do to minimize it. The number one thing is, I mean, I just don't care about it, honestly. I just do my eyes first and then I can wipe the fallout away or just go over it with foundation. You can't see it. So there's that. Make sure you do your eyes first, and then you could always get a baby wipe or whatever and wipe the fallout away. Problem solved. To get less fallout, she obviously has her Artistry wand, which is a bit of a sort of priming product for shimmers that should give you less fallout. You could also use a damp brush, spritz your brush either with just water or something like MAC Fix Plus. That should give you less fallout. Using a finger instead of a brush could give you less fallout. You could even, if you wanted to use like a glitter adhesive, to get less fallout. But yeah, all of those things will reduce the amount of fallout, but there is going to be fallout with those types of shadows. That's just kind of the nature of them. But the best tip I can give you is just to do eyes first, and then it's very easy to wipe away. Hey Gray asks how to make cream cheek products last all day. So this is one of the reasons I don't love cream products. They don't last as well typically as powders. So a few options. One, you can set your cream products with a powder product. To me, what is the point of that? I always just feel if like you have to go in and set your cream products with a powder product of the same variety, just use the powder product. That's what I do. But if you love creams and you only want to use creams, I mean, there are some really amazing long-lasting cream products now. The Rare Beauty blushes are very long-wearing. The new Charlotte Tilbury cream bronzer is extremely long-wearing, like as long-wearing as any powder bronzer I have tried. So they're getting better all the time. It's just about reviews and looking especially for ones that wear very, very well. But yeah, you can set them with a powder of the same similar color blush but in a powder variety, or you could even use like a translucent powder over the top, very, very light dusting, and a setting spray as well. Those are a few things to try. So lovely Rachel says she's doing her own wedding makeup. Congratulations, how exciting to be getting married very soon. Any recommendations or tips? So I didn't do my own wedding makeup. I was just far too worried about, and also I was married way before I really got into makeup. So I was really not good at doing makeup when I got married to my husband. But I have spent a lot of time kind of thinking about this, especially with COVID, because so many people had to do their own makeup who wouldn't have done if it wasn't for COVID, because they weren't allowed to, you know, makeup artists weren't allowed to work during COVID, and any weddings that happened, you had to do everything yourself, which is terrifying. Imagine having to do your own wedding hair. Please no. But anyway, so yeah, I think the main thing is to find your products, do a lot of practices, because on your wedding morning, you don't want the stress of one, coming up with something. So I think you need to choose the look that you're going for, watch a lot of YouTube tutorials and find this is the look I'm going for, and practice it. Work out how long you need without rushing to do it properly. Base is going to be really important. Ensure that you have a foundation that does not have any SPF in it, that isn't going to possibly create any kind of bounce back and flash photography. Do trials and see how well it wears on you, different weather, different situations, different periods of time. 100% make sure you're super happy with how it photographs in person and in flash photography, because that is what sometimes catches brides out. Using a gorgeous foundation that looks incredible in person, but a flash photo is going to set off a big white cast or just be too shiny. So that I would try. Make sure that you've got the look look and the shades and everything, and your amazing brushes, and you've got everything with you, you know how long you need to do it in a time that you can relax and not be panicking and rushing out of control, and just practice, practice, practice. Do the same look over and over and over again until you know you absolutely can smash it. If I were you, also my bigger tip would, don't try and do a winged liner, because in the best of times, that is a recipe for disaster. But on your wedding day, I definitely would just go without that. There are also lots of brands, I think Charlotte Tilbury, I know MAC, lots of brands will do like a makeup lesson, particularly a bridal makeup lesson that you do have to pay for, but then it's redeemable against the products. So you can sit down with a professional makeup artist, they will teach you how to do the makeup look, and then you can purchase the products that they've used, and that's then redeemable against the makeup lesson. So that would be also something maybe to look into. Elle says, covering redness in the summer without sweating it off. I also had a multitude of questions, many questions about like heat-proof makeup, summer makeup, makeup for hot weather, or how to stop sweating through your makeup. So lots of things to consider here. One, an excellent primer that is tailored to your skin type. If you get very oily, then obviously an oil controlling primer. If you're very dry, then obviously a hydrating primer. I think when it comes to hot weather and summer makeup, hot temperatures, the best thing that I have found is less is more. If you go, basically, the more makeup you have on your face, the worse it's going to look if you start really sweating through it and really baking through it, because there's more to melt. You know what I'm saying? If you just go out with a really light bit of a tinted moisturizer and like a bit of a cream bronzer on your cheeks and some mascara, literally what's really the worst that can happen? That's also then very easy to kind of touch up throughout the day. You could carry some of the tinted moisturizer around with you and just kind of get a bit of a dab here and there, dab of the bronzer, and you can kind of touch up as you go. If you've gone in with like foundation that's full coverage, concealer, bronzer, blush and highlight, and all of that is melting off your face. One, very hard to touch it all up without it just becoming a paste. Two, if your foundation is really full coverage and it's melting off, especially if you have a lot of redness, it's going to show through a lot more than if you only had a light coverage that's just kind of giving you a bit more of an uniform look. And that's what I kind of go for. And if it's a really hot day and I'm going to be, you know, outside in the heat and I'm likely to be like getting super hot and sweaty, then I will barely wear, if I wear any makeup, I'll do something like the By Terry CC serum just to even out my skin tone, mascara, and like maybe some either cream blush or my Charlotte Tilbury cream bronzer, just to kind of give me some dimension to the face. I feel like going way more sheer and natural and less is, it's less far to fall, is what I'm saying. If you're up here and everything starts, you know, breaking down and melting, you're going right down here, and the difference is going to be a shock. Whereas if you've just got a little touch of something and it starts to wear off, who's going to notice the difference? You know, that's my philosophy. And then lovely Aaliyah Joe asks, would I rather a very good product with bad packaging or an average product with a gorgeous one? I mean, I'd just rather a great product and great packaging, you know. Is that too much to ask for? But I think the answer for me is proof is in the pudding when it comes to like the Pat McGrath blush palette from the Bridgerton collection. I hate everything about that packaging, but the product inside is so glorious that it's still one of my favourite makeup items of all time. So I think to an extent, like as long as the packaging isn't like completely malfunctioning and falling apart, it's ultimately the product that counts. I like nice packaging, but it doesn't make me love the product, you know, inside anymore. And I definitely am not, I really am not drawn to products that I don't actually love just because they've got a nice packaging. You know, gorgeous packaging is nice, but it doesn't make the product perform any better. And I think more so it's like fiddly packaging that's problematic, annoys me. Something like the Benefit packaging, it doesn't matter how nice their blushes and bronzers are, I hate the packaging so much that I don't want to use it. So there is definitely like a line when it comes to, you know, the packaging being so bad that it's actually not worth the product inside. But at the same time, I can overlook most packaging that isn't my thing or isn't as nice as I wish it was for an amazing product inside. Whereas, you know, an average or not that great product in a fancy, gorgeous packaging, it's going to be disappointing every time because you just want the product to live up to its beautiful outer packaging. So yeah, I think I would have to go for the glorious product in the not so great packaging every time. So I think I pretty much answered every question there was. I'm so sorry if I've missed one. I think that's all of them, although sometimes it ages out and I might have missed a response, but I think we answered pretty much every question today. So thank you so much for sending in all your questions. There were some wonderful questions I think are going to be really helpful for lots of people. Please, if you have a hot tidbit, a hot tip of any sort for any of these questions, please, I know you guys always do, you're always really great at adding your tips and tricks that you have in the comment section down below. So please, as always, share your amazing tips and tricks and products as well, so we can get more ideas and more answers to these makeup dilemmas. I hope you enjoyed this video and I'd love to see you in the next one. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye 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 bye.